Well, thank you for joining us today on this lovely Wednesday, depending on where you're at. And just to introduce myself, I know that I've met a number of you before, but my name is Jenna Walther. I'm the Marketing and Operations Manager here at Savantis. So most likely, if you have questions at some point in time, you'll end up speaking to me in some capacity. And so we are kind of doing this ISV Spotlight series for BC customers to kind of showcase the number of different ISV solutions that we have worked with in the past and that we like. And we are starting out with Continia because we like them. But we actually use Continia for both expense management and AP invoices here at Savantis. We are big fans, and we have implemented for a couple of different clients. So that's mainly what I wanted to start out with and say before introducing Mark and Chris. Mark is going to kind of start us off today. He's going to just kind of roll through what some of the capabilities are, I believe, and kind of talk to you about some of that. And then he and Chris will kind of go back and forth and let you know everything you need to know. As far as sort of logistics for the webinar here, if you have anything you want to jump in, we've got kind of a smaller group here today. So if you want to jump in with any questions, feel free to either raise your hand and go to webinar, or shoot a message into the chat, and they will go ahead and unmute you to ask that question, or they'll answer the question directly from, out loud if they read it from the chat. So they'll kind of just take it from there. So you won't be able to unmute yourself, but they'll be able to unmute you if you just let them know that you want to say something. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mark, and he's going to get us started.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for making time, and thank you to Savantis for having us on today to share a little bit about what we're about and how we can make everybody's lives a little bit simpler. We'll get into a lot of details in terms of just the benefits and really what a no-brainer solution we consider our solutions to be. Chris DeVisser is here with us today, and he's the demo guy. So he's really going to show you the wow behind what we provide. And Chris, are you there?
I certainly am. Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Excellent. Excellent. I had a small moment of panic there. The Wi-Fi has been a little questionable this morning. I thought somehow I've already dropped. So hello, everybody. I wanted to say hi, showing my face, but I'm going to turn my video off just to manage the Wi-Fi connection and make sure that everything comes through and you can hear me okay. So apologize for that. Lynn already has a question. I wonder if Lynn's asking if we're recording this.
Yeah. Yes. And the answer is yes.
Yeah. There you go. Fantastic. All right, so let me turn my video off and let me start the presentation. And okay, if somebody can confirm they can see the slides okay, and I'll go ahead and roll to the first one. We good to go?
Yep.
Fantastic. So if I could see y'all, if you're in the room with me, I'm hoping I see a lot of head nods and kind of faces of recognition. I got to tell you, the more customers we talk to, the more we still hear about accounting teams, finance teams drowning in paper. And if this is a familiar sight for you, we've got help for you. So there is help out there. You are not alone, despite it being 2022. Gosh, there's so many accounting teams still chasing paper around, maintaining tickler files, having file cabinets, chasing people around to process, invoices and expense reports and all of that. This is why we exist. We've been at this for 30 years to help finance teams do away with non-value added activities and focus on really changing the perspective to where you're able to do forecasts and monitor trends and tighten controls and do the things that you really want to do instead of course, chasing paper and minding all of that. So that's why we exist, and we do it in a couple different ways. And oh, I'm sorry, I forgot I had this slide. Yes, so just kind of elaborating on some of what I just talked about. Again, hopefully this is resonating with you in terms of some of the issues you're dealing with, and especially over the past couple years, I think this has really exposed some of those key areas and some of those key issues. Again, with non-value added activities, right? When everybody hasn't been together in the same office, right? Taking a week to process something that normally took a day because everybody was together, and that's really exposing these weaknesses now and opening up companies to risk and exposing some of the internal control issues that was previously kind of hidden. So like I said, we do that through 3 different solutions. There's document capture to handle incoming documents. Usually folks are looking at automating their invoices, so AP automation, but we can handle a number of different type of documents. Basically any documents that you have coming in, we can scan them, save them into Business Central, create a record around that. We also handle outgoing documents. So if you like sending out customer statements on a regular basis, for example, we can help with that, incorporate Business Central data into those documents and automate that process for you. And then in the middle, we have expense management, and that is, as you might expect, for all the employees incurring expenses and having to get reimbursed for that. We automate those processes as well, and dare I say, even make expense reporting fun. I know it's questionable, but we've had that comment from several customers, and so we like to say that as well. Chris is going to show us document capture and expense management today, but I'm going to highlight first in each some of the kind of key functions and features and therefore benefits for you. And again, just jump in with questions as we're moving through here. I'm going to keep talking fast though, because we've got a lot to go through in a short amount of time, and I want to make sure Chris has enough time to again show you the wow and the solutions. So for document capture, again, automating incoming documents. Most often folks look first to AP invoices because frankly, this is an easy one. We can automate, I like to say, as much or as little as you want. Customers can get up to 90-95% complete automation, and the first time the finance team sees that invoice and has to touch that invoice is at posting time, if you can believe that. We can automate all that through highly configurable business rules inside the solution. You can set thresholds and of course the approval workflow and the rules associated with that. You'll find there are several solutions out there. Where we really excel is doing line level matching and 2- and 3-way level matching. And then, as I mentioned, assigning to dimensions, the approval workflows associated with that. We also integrate with MEM and have done that very successfully as well, and that's a key consideration for a lot of customers lately. So we hear that popping up a lot. There's also a separate web approval portal. I don't know if we'll get a chance to see that today, but if you have folks in the approval process workflow that aren't core BC users, no problem. We've got that approval workflow and very easy to use for that. And I just mentioned Business Central, and it occurred to me I didn't really talk about what versions we support. If you're still using Nav, God forgive us, back to 3.7, we can support you. I think there are some folks still back on 3.0 versions and 5.0 versions of Nav, but we do support certainly all versions of Nav from that, as well as Business Central, and we're on the same release schedule as Microsoft to keep up to date with them. So that's document capture. And just to give you kind of a picture before you see it, again, scanning the incoming documents, and we can accept those kind of documents in a variety of formats, get the data off of that. And then again, we can automate as much of the approval workflow and get very, very specific with that as you'd like. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the solution. Chris, I'm going to give you the presenter rights if you are ready to pop open document capture. And you should have that now.
Okay, and then I should select what I want to show you. So everybody can hear me all right? See the screen? You should see Business Central right now. I'm going to walk you through a couple of quick examples, and then we'll hand it over back to Mark to continue it. Mark, I think you want me to just do DC for now, right? And we'll come back to the end later.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Yep. So how do documents get to BC? As Mark explained, and you saw on the screen earlier, most of them, ideally also your vendors, can now send them via email. We monitor that email box. It's a domain that you have for your organization, and we'll just pick up the email attachment. So it doesn't really matter where they come from. If they get sent to other people in the organization, they can just forward it. If you receive paper documents, you can just batch scan those, and we can split the documents out automatically for you based off of the information that we read in the file, because that's the first step that we take. We're going to read the entire file. We're going to OCR it, object character recognition, where we take the data from the invoice and bring that over to Business Central. And I say invoice here because we're limited in time, so I'm just going to walk through some invoice examples. But down here on the screen, you can see that we support other document types as well. One we often see for our customers that use us for AP automation is that they simply roll in sales orders as well, basically taking a customer PO and turning that into a sales order inside of Business Central. As Mark mentioned, we can be as automated as you would like. And the most benefits obviously is in full automation, where we OCR the documents. That data then gets imported into BC. We'll go and try to register the document, meaning we're going to read it and apply logic from Business Central to it. And that can be very vendor specific. If it's a vendor that you do purchase orders with and purchase order receipts, we're going to try to match it against those other data points that we have to match against. And we could auto approve this document to the released status or even post it for you if everything else is checking out okay. Documents that are unrelated to POs, or you've not set that up as such yet, they could be routed for that separate approval process using our web approval portal or using Business Central. And I think we'll be able to take a quick look at the web approval portal as well. If we dive into the journal for the purchase invoices, you see some added functionality. If you're familiar with Business Central, you see some functionality here that is not standard available that we make available. Most notably here, the image of the document that you will always have with the transaction, also beyond posting. So not only does Continia Document Capture help with the data entry element of things, we also help you archiving the files automatically and making it very easy to retrieve them in the future. And on top of that, also some auditing tools in terms of approval logs so that you can keep your auditors happy as well. So if I click on a value that we've captured on these documents, you can see highlighted on the right-hand side where these values come from. And these first 4 documents are marked as okay. Normally, these would process automatically and in the background. But for the purpose of this demo, I want to walk you through them a little bit and not automate everything. And you can see right here, I can click on a field and then it's highlighted. If I click on another one, you see it jumping. And I can constantly teach the system new tricks as well. If I, for example, would like to capture the posting description as well, I simply click on the field and I drag and drop a box around it on the document, and that data is now entered here. Not only did I enter it right here on this particular example, I've also trained the vendor template to be more accurate next time. It will automatically save this, so next time it knows where to find the posting description. And each vendor can have very specific rules. In this case, step 1 is to create an invoice. And since we're running semi-automated, step 2 is left empty. But if I would like to automate this vendor, again, coming back to you choose how automated you would like to go with Continia, you just simply tell the system what you want step number 2 to be, either submitting it for approval, releasing it, or posting it. And here you see a lot of the other features that we have available. We're one of the few solutions out there that can do line recognition and then also match on a line level directly inside of Business Central to the receipt or the order, or to the receipt only, for example, meaning we're going to only auto approve this invoice or the portion of the invoice that we received for the goods that we've actually received and that the price is in line with the purchase order. That 3-way match that was on the screen earlier in the slideshow as well. So you can go very detailed, very granular if you would like to, or keep it high level if that better suits your business. And if your business process changes, the system can change with you, right? So we don't want to limit you in improving over time. In fact, we've designed our products that you can slowly but surely grow into it. the way our cloud licensing works, it's also based on usage. So you only pay for what you use. If we look at some other examples here with Coolwood Technologies, you can see it's been fully matched with purchase order 1003. So obviously this would normally auto approve the invoice. Here's an example with Electronics Limited that we've captured the lines and we have all the details for that as well. If we look at what happened there in the background, you can see that the vendor used different item numbers or references than we are familiar with. So we also built this translation to either an item, a GL, a resource, a fixed asset, or a charge. And then since we live inside of BC, you could choose what that is, right from the right place inside of BC. With Continia, it's impossible for you as a finance team, for your approvers, for anybody involved in this process to select something that Business Central ultimately cannot operate on. So Business Central is your single source of truth. That's where the data is, and that's also of influence for your reporting and your statuses, right? If we generate this invoice now manually real quick, and I'll send this out for approval, then as an AP person or as a finance team, you always have the status of where these documents are. You can always see, okay, these are apparently with Richard Lum. What are the amounts? What are the due dates? You can make sure your accrual reports are taking this information in account, right? Because it's inside of Business Central. So super valuable. The original file is attached. If you would like the details, you can obviously click on it, but everything is right there. If we quickly switch to the approval process, Richard Lum is a different person. It's somebody in the business, not in the AP team, not in the finance team. We don't want Richard to be inside of Business Central to look at these documents. So we're going to send him automated emails each day if there are invoices that require his attention. And in the email is a link to this web approval portal. This is real-time integrated with Business Central and it allows for single sign-on, so they don't have to remember additional passwords. If they click on the link on their mobile phone, it also loads a mobile-friendly version of the portal. But here you can see the invoices that we've been working on, and we can interact with this information now. We can open the invoice and simply approve, reject, and forward these documents. We can interact with the dimensions. We can allow for them to select the job and the task, or we could even make that a required field. So if we want our approvers to help us code these documents, we require that from them, right? So instead of finance always doing the heavy lifting up front and then having to chase approvers for the appropriate input, we'll have the system do that, and then finance just validates it towards the end of it. Of course, if you prefer to still work the way that finance checks things first, that is certainly possible. We don't prevent you from doing that. It's just our experience with customers where the most benefits are. I hit approve on the previous one. We're on to the next one automatically, and you can see if I have the permission to do so. As an approver, I could even change the GL, but I'm limited to like 10 or so of them. So you could still kind of put the training wheels on for your approvers that they cannot approve something that or change it to a GL that they're not familiar with. They can put comments on as well. They can attach additional files. Yeah, so these are some of the options. When we go back to BC and I refresh the screen, you see we have 2 release purchase invoices. Everything was within the approval limits of a single approver. Obviously, it can be multiple approvers. It can be based on the dimensions that are applicable, the jobs, the tasks, etc. But right here, this could be the very first time that the AP team sees these documents. We have all the information. It's been approved. The status is released, in fact. So this document is ready to post it. And I can do that either one by one or as a batch. And that can also run automatically if you would like to. And if I post this document right now, then off we go. If we take a quick look there, then you'll see that it comes through as any other posted invoice with the additional benefits that we still have an image of the document. We have the original file attached. We have something around the approval log. So when you get audited you can always pull up this information right here on the transaction. We also hook into the navigate function from Business Central, so you can navigate to it from whichever way you get to the document, either from the GL, from the vendor ledger entry. You can always find the document capture document and the file that it came with. And with that, I think, Mark, I want to hand it back over to you.
Fantastic. Let me grab the presentation back from you. And I got to say, I am really glad you had the opportunity to show the after the fact search. I think that's one of the most powerful features of the solution, because months down the road, we need to pull up that invoice for some reason, check some data point on it, as you suggested, if the auditors are in town, whatever the case may be, is so fast. You don't have to go rifling through files and files trying to figure out what happened with that particular invoice or particular transaction. And also, we take care of any related documentation that comes in with that invoice, and that's scanned and accessible as well. It's not just the invoice that you can pull up, but you can go back to the email that was the carrier for that invoice and see that email if you need to reference back for some reason there. So I hope you got a sense. There are a ton more functions and features in the solution that take a bit more time to go through. We have all of this available on our YouTube channel. Certainly, you can just go out to YouTube and search Continia. We have the link for it at the end of the presentation here as well. So, but you to go ahead and investigate that a little more deeply. So, quick show of hands. If you can just raise your hands in the GoToWebinar panel here. I want to see if we're resonating with anybody. Does any of this look like you'd like to to reduce or achieve? Anybody interested in saving a little bit of time and frustration and paper handling and so forth? I don't see any raised hands. None? Okay. Thank you, Kyle. I would expect most of you to see something here that's a little bit interesting, a little bit familiar. All right. Kyle, appreciate that very much. So folks, again, reminder, go ahead and throw some questions in the chat or the Q&A there. Let's go ahead and roll forward and talk about expense management. So as mentioned previously, you have employees that have expenses to submit. If you're not familiar with a typical expense management solution, not only do we support those functions, we have the direct credit card integration with the major carriers, and either can connect to your bank or straight away with them and make reconciling credit card expenses a heck of a lot easier. Incredibly easy to use app on the phone and the approval portal. When I joined Continia, I didn't get any training, just started using it, and it's super easy to figure out. And of course, then it's all in one place and very easy to track down. And here's a key difference as well. Most of my career has been around the old model of submitting expense reports, and you had that due on the 28th of the month, and then you had this huge influx of stuff to take care of on the accounting with the accounting team, and chasing down receipts and everything else, and then managing the approval process. We can accept expenses individually, so you're not tied to that kind of batch processing mode anymore. You can handle it throughout the month, and boy, isn't that a nice thing, where you're not bottlenecked at the end of the month, along with closing and everything else you have to do at the end of the month. So a lot of companies enjoy the opportunity to switch over to that. So just the basic concept or basic picture of what happens: submitting expenses either through the portal or through the app, and accepting those corporate credit card transactions and the direct feeds, and you can do that on a very regular basis. Do the reconciliation, and of course manage the approvals then as well. We wanted to show you a little bit about how that looks and works as well. So Chris, let me give you back the presentation rights, and I think you folks will see as well, just the beauty of this is you really can't tell that you're using an additional solution, right? This is all built inside Business Central. Looks like Business Central, uses Business Central data, records everything to Business Central. So very, very beyond integration.
Yeah, Perfect. I'm showing the screen. Actually going to start in the app from the expense user perspective. So what happened already is this is a corporate credit card user, and he's submitted some expenses on his corporate credit card, and we can see those in the Open tab on the credit card. You see the information right here, transaction with LinkedIn. It's been the amounts and everything has been populated because, as Mark mentioned, we have the corporate credit card integration with MasterCard, Visa, and Amex. So we can use that as the basis to create the expenses. From an expense user perspective, all I need to do in this particular setup is just select the receipt that's part of it. And then if there's any other mandatory fields that you control in the setups inside of BC, I would have to enter those, for example, department, for example, project or job or task, or maybe in your organization, you have expenses that you need to bill onwards to the customer. You can do that as well. You can even make fields required based on the expense type, because expense types are mapped to GL accounts in the background inside of BC. And based on that, you can also require additional information. For example, if I switch this from software to food with guests, you can see it now requires me to enter the attendees. This is technically an IRS rule. You have to gather the attendees if somebody has a dinner with other people. But let's switch this back to software, because obviously LinkedIn is closer to software than food with guests. And I can submit this expense and off it goes. Very easy, very simple. Let me do that on another one. So we'll see some examples going through the system. I'll do the hotel bill right here. Oh, sorry, a little delay here. And off we go. If people do not have a corporate credit card, or they paid something in cash, they can always enter an expense as well, of course. We also have a mileage module that directly integrates with Google, and you can either enter an address or a keyword. So if we go in here and say we went to the Empire State Building, then Google will look up the address for us. And not only that, it will also calculate the mileage between the address where we are, or the one that we enter, and the different routes that are available. So you can see right now there's 2 routes that Google found for me. Obviously, I will take the shortest one, and I can then enter this visit with client, and then I will just submit this. The calculation and the rates and all the logic, all the smart stuff more or less happens inside of BC, right? Because we don't want to replicate anything that you're doing already over there. We just want to gather the input from the expense user and provide that to Business Central, to approvers, and then to the finance team to handle the rest of the process as automated as we can, of course.
We're all about customer service, but I don't know about driving 2 hours to pick a customer up. I'm just
yeah.
Maybe Chris will do that for you.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
I'll do it.
Okay, good.
As Mark mentioned, you can and as I just showed, we can submit expenses one by one, right? That saves a lot of bottleneck at the end of the month. Some customers, however, still prefer to work in more of a report modus. So obviously we support that, and you can choose in the setups whether that's the only way to do that for your expense users. So they can also submit things as a report. History is available, so people can follow the status of their expenses as they go through the process. But what I'm going to do now is switch to BC, because we see right now we have 4 pending expenses. Those were expenses that came in through the corporate credit card. The moment the synchronize happens, which runs automatically, but you can always click also on synchronize. It pulls in all the different transactions that happened in the meantime. And you see now we still have 4 pending expenses, but also mileage. When we now look at the pending expenses, you can see that for those where receipts have been submitted, the receipts are visible, and the status changed to pending approval, in this case by the group finance. For those that we've not submitted receipts, it's still pending the expense user because the attachments are missing. So here you see like 2 of those quick examples. So similarly, As you saw with document capture, we have an approver, the manager of our expense user, that needs to approve his or her expenses, and that uses that same web approval portal. If you use both document capture and expense management, you'll have only one instance of the web approval portal, of course, and now you would be able, instead of seeing purchase invoices, to see expenses. And let me quickly approve these as well. So we'll see the results of that inside of PC. When we go here now and we update the screen, we see 2 expenses ready to post. I'll leave the mileage for what it is. You get the concept. Now we have expenses that are released. We see it's been approved by Richard Lom on behalf of finance. We see also that it's matched to a bank transaction. These were corporate credit card transactions that we imported directly from Visa as the bank posted them. What happens if I post these now is it's going to automatically reconcile these transactions against that corporate credit card. So you don't have to puzzle those transactions together manually anymore. The system will really do that for you. And as a finance team, you always have a very clear indication of why there are still transactions not reconciled. It's either because it's not been approved by the manager, or it's not been submitted with the appropriate information by the expense user. So you know exactly who to chase at the end of the month. The system will do the chasing for you each and every day, but if you really want to give the push to the right people in person, you can do that exactly right there. And that's what I wanted to show in terms of expense management. I don't know, I see a question pane blinking, but it may be from a previous question.
It's actually Jenna just putting some follow-up for everyone. So
perfect. Yep. Okay, then back to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. And so let me share a couple more points here, and then let's circle back around, see if anybody has any questions that have come up in the process. Here's the situation. It's just like I said up front, we really do consider it a no-brainer solution for several reasons. That built inside Business Central, I hope you can appreciate very quickly how important that is in terms of doing that follow-on research, just even from a change management and user adoption perspective, right? Folks that are already familiar with the system, guess what? It's the same interface. And so once they understand a little bit about just the processing rules and how the workflows work, they're off and running. We, as we mentioned as well, are usage based. And so you want to start with just a few invoices the first month and add on to that, or you want to go much more big bang. Choice is up to you. You're only going to pay for really what you process. And especially with the Business Central subscription license format, right? There's no upfront cost other than just getting it set up to get going. So we can support Savantis, but you work with Savantis in terms of installing the solutions and going through the testing and the configuration and turning it live. And so you're working with folks that you're already familiar with, and guess what? For ongoing support, Savantis is your first call as well. We're working with them hand in hand behind the scenes, but you get to work with the folks that you already know and know your business. And so very important strategy and approach for us. And again, you're going to see, hopefully you've already kind of intimated very, very quick payback on this. Very inexpensive as well in terms of, gosh, well, you can go out to our website and figure out the pricing for yourself. Very easy to use calculator out there, but gosh, if you're processing, say, 250 invoices a month, like one of our average customers is, that's going to be in around $1 an invoice. It's really very, very inexpensive compared to the hours that you're going to save in terms of manual data entry and error corrections and just trying to read handwriting and figure out what's going on and chasing people around, as we mentioned. So A lot of benefits waiting for you out there. If you have international offices, we have you covered there as well. And I got to say, I love hearing from our customers who have been able, again, to do away with those non-value added activities and turn their accounting team into proactive information workers. It's been the promise for 30 years now to go paperless, and when you can switch and not have to worry about those repetitive tasks and chasing down and managing all that paper, and be able to now investigate trends and garner insights into from the financial transactions that are happening with your customer or your company, and managing it much more proactively. Wow, what an opportunity for your finance team to really add value. So what's next? We you probably can tell, absolutely rush through that to make sure that you had a good overview of what everything's about, but there is a lot more detail available out there. Certainly on our website, you can go out there, read about all the different uses, especially for our document capture solution, in terms of types of documents you can bring in and what you can do with those. We've got in-depth demos available on our YouTube channel. And again, you're going to work with your Savannah's customer representative and the Savannah's team to get going with this. Very easy to get going. You can download the solution from AppSource, activate it. We have a free trial, a 30-day trial, so you can get familiar with it and even start testing some of your existing invoices so you can see it with your data. And of course, talk with Savannah's about making it happen and doing away with all of that manual data entry.